Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Togainu no Chi. Togainu no Chi. Last time they continued deeper into the red light district, and why did I start reading that? They went ahead and met up with Keisuke. Kira met up with Keisuke, and then we met up with a blonde twink that's really ugly and kind of girly looking. I'm not into him at all, despite my my preference for twinks. But now he's forcing us along to enter Keisuke into the Igra tournament. Apparently it's just that easy to enter the tournament. So let's go ahead and continue. They continue deeper into the red light district, turning once down another road before proceeding straight. According to Rin, this place was a shortcut to their destination, which is apparently known as the Palace. Rin wound his way through the dark alleys without slowing down. Perhaps the pace was due in part to the short distance involved, but watching him, Akira began to think that maybe it was safer, in general, to move about briskly rather than slowly and carefully, as they had before. Yeah, moving quickly through a dangerous area is a good idea. Shocker. They reached the main road without any trouble. There, Rin spun around and held out a hand, grinning.
正面に見えるのが悪の組織ビスキオノス、通称城でございます。
Looks awful. Ah, Akira thought, of course. Of course, what? A structure from another age stood there, dignified even in its dinginess. Stairs swept ostentatiously towards the front entrance. Huge black doors, embedded with glass, stood ready to welcome visitors. Even the windows were covered by velvet curtains. In the courtyard there was a lit circular fountain with a statue of a nude, wistful boy gazing heavenward at its center. Possibly a homage to the work of some famous sculptor. Guards stood in orderly lines on both sides of the stairs, wearing heavy body armor and carrying guns. He could see why they called it the Palace. I can't.
でかいな。確かね、対戦前は多目的なイベントホールとして使われてたんじゃなかったかな、ここ。で、対戦後、幅を利かせたビスキオ一味が占拠しちゃったってわけ。中はね、もうカオスよ、カオス。カオス？行けばわかるって。
Rin made a face and shrugged his shoulders, then continued towards the palace. Kira and Keisuke followed. They passed by the fountain and climbed the stairs leading up to the entrance.
お勤めご苦労様です。
Rin gave the guard at the entrance a friendly wave.
何の用だ?
Ugh. Girl, what's up with the nose ring?
イグラ参加希望です。
The guard glanced hard from Akira to Keisuke, then eyed Rin's dog tag.
お前はすでに参加しているようだが。
俺じゃないって、後ろ後ろ。青いつなぎ着てるおおらかそうな兄ちゃん。あ
ーと。Keisuke shrank in on himself.
いいだろう。どれ。玄関ホールで待つように。
So, what would be stopping Akira from getting an extra pair of dog tags? Like, what if he just took off his dog tags and then went in there and said he wanted to be a participant now? Couldn't he get like 2 sets and just get even closer to getting the full hand that he wants? You know?
Hi hi.
Just seems like the obvious thing to do, but whatever. As the door swung solemnly open, a surreal vista unfolded before them. Yeah. The hall they stepped into was wide and open with a vaulted ceiling and a floor of pink marble. That's... okay. Just inside the entrance was a small fountain burbling with cool, clear water. The decor was far more luxurious than it appeared from the outside. An enormous chandelier hung overhead, emitting dazzling light. It's very dim lighting, but whatever. The space was littered with suits of medieval armor and other ostentatious works of art. Of particular note, there were statues of young boys, as these were especially common. Perhaps they were part of the same collection. Not a single statue in the room was female. A lot of statues of young boys in here. Noticing a trend here. Keisuke, who appeared to be experiencing sensory overload, kept gaping at the second floor. What? Have you never seen... Like, I don't even understand. Have you never seen statues? Or old suits of armor? Or stairs? Keisuke, what's wrong?
何度来てもほっと趣味悪いよここ。どういう改造してんだよ。あの変態はさ。
Rin let out a heavy sigh, like he couldn't decide whether to be disgusted or impressed. After some time, a black-suited man shaped like a boulder emerged from the back. Wait a second, does he have a nose ring too? What? Is that like part of the uniform here? Here's your gay little face mask, and here's your earring. Or nose ring, excuse me. Keisuke went stiff, his eyes cast downward. Rin shot him a glance. Once Keisuke timidly raised his hand, the man passed him a white object. The man gave him a pure white mask, which was shaped so as to cover the upper half of his face. Where's my piercing? Where is my tacky, gross-looking nose piercing? Keisuke frowned as he looked at the mask, his expression saying that he'd really rather not.
他にも参加希望のやついるからね。いきなり顔分かっちゃうのも微妙じゃん。まあ、変っちゃ変だよね。
I think they'll recognize him anyway, but fine.
他の二人は
もう参加してるんで、付き添いです。
As Rin gave his tag a shake, Akira pulled his own out from where it had been hiding beneath its jacket.
いいだろう。ついてこい。
Confirming that Keisuke had put the mask on, the guards set off down the corridor that led to the back, past the spiral staircase.
何?
Let me go look at him. Rin gaped at the masked Keisuke. Akira too found his eyes nailed in place.
いや、分かってるとはいえ、やっぱ変だよね。まあ、アルビトラ様の趣味だし、仕方ないんだけどさ。
Keisuke gave Akira a searching sideways glance. Akira didn't let it show on his face, but considering the palace's decor and all, he was starting to wonder what kind of person this arbitro really was. At the very end of the hallway stood a pair of black double doors. Chains wrapped 2 to 3 layers deep around its handles. The guard had brought them to the room just before. From what he could see through the door, it looked like a waiting room with a table and 2 sofas in the middle. It wasn't especially spacious. About 5 or 6 men were waiting inside, all wearing masks like Keisuke's, and all of them seemed nervous. As Keisuke entered, they turned to stare at him with silent trepidation. Although their faces were hidden, it was obvious from their physiques and the way they carried themselves that they were no strangers to violence.
付き添いは外で待て。
The door gradually began to close.
ちょっと。
頑張ってね。
In response to Keisuke's desperate look, Rin waved him a cheerful farewell. Akira merely nodded. The door shut, and after a moment of silence, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed off the marble floor.
待ってました。
Together with Rin's mocking whisper, a man appeared from the far end of the corridor. The moment he saw him, Akira was dumbstruck. Ugh, he is not looking good. Oh god. Oh lord. What? What? The other guys have assault rifles on their back? Is that really the gun of choice inside closed, tight interiors? Whatever. Oops, I think I skipped a line, did I? The man who accompanied by several guards was the king of bad taste. He was wearing a white suit with white gloves, his shirt was crimson, and his necktie was yellow-green, and on top of it all, he had swathed himself in a piece of vibrant purple fur. Beneath his bleached and frazzled hair, he wore a mask reminiscent, yet far more gaudy than the one Keisuke had received. Is it far more gaudy? Looks like it has a little red streak on it. Doesn't look that much more gaudy. As a whole, his outfit evinced an aesthetic sensibility utterly beyond human comprehension. What? No. Akira, go home. You don't know what you're talking about. It certainly explained a thing or two about the decor in this place. His henchmen were dressed in similar garb. What? What do you mean they were dressed in similar garb? They're dressed in black. They're not dressed in similar garb. What? Which clashed sharply with the matte black machine guns hanging from their shoulders. No, it didn't. They're also... What? What is up with... Sometimes the CG is just directly refuting what's said in the narration. Like, what? Like, why did you have the guards also in black if you were not going to say they were in black? If you're going to say they were not black? Very odd. Was this man really the host of Igara? From beneath the mask, two snake-like eyes peered out from Rin and Akira. He seemed to be checking them for tags, but Akira sensed the man's eyes lingering on his body longer than necessary. He shivered in revulsion.
参加希望者の付き添いですか。ご苦労様です。すぐに終わりますので、しばしお待ちを。
This does not sound like how he would talk.
健闘を祈りますよ。
The one time of Japanese voice actors should ham it up, and they didn't do it. Like, hello? What's going on? Like, why? Like, the most, throwaway side characters that we only talk to for a few minutes ham it up to hell. But this guy, of all people, is so muted and low and talks so, like, meekly. Maybe it'll change later. I don't know. His voice was as syrupy as his gaze. Leaving behind a superficially polite smile, the man vanished inside the waiting room together with his underlings. So that really was our Bitro.
キモいよね、あいつ。蛇みたいな目でチロチロ見やがってさ。変態そのものって感じ。
そうだな。
Wait a second. Am I, like, confused, or has... What's his name?
アキラもそう思ったっしょ。イルレがいなきゃ何もできないくせにさ。まるでビスキオは自分のものって感じ。
Has Rin not been, sexually harassing both Keisuke and Akira this whole time? Like, hello? Pot calling the kettle black? Encouraged by Akira's agreement, Rin let out a contemptuous snort. What was taking place inside the waiting room? Recording their citizen numbers, explaining the rules of the tournament. It probably stopped there, but the fact that our Bitro was so bizarre gave Akira some cause for worry. He decided to ask Rin for information. This would also help to kill time.
あいつ、大丈夫なのか？
え？何が？
何か妙なことしたりとか。
ああ、見るからに変態っぽいもんね。変態を突っ走るって感じだもんね。でもさすがに参加希望者に手を出すことはないと思うよ。あいつも一応仕事とプライベートの分別くらいはつくみたいだし。
At this point, Rin frowned.
まあ、どうだかわかんないけどね。奴隷とか好きらしいし。
Oh god.
奴隷？
Disquieting word.
そうそう。タグの交換でさ。って参加したばっかだからわかんないか。アルビトロもそこはっきり説明しないしね。余ったタグをアルビトロのとこに持ってくとさ、景品と交換してくれんのよ。1枚から金。でさ、景品って麻薬、酒、金、いろいろあってね。まあ強いタグに応じて変わるんだけど、その中にさ、あるんだよね。
At this last part, Rin's lowered his voice into a theatrical whisper.
何が？
だから、奴隷だよ。
That's not a
敗者は
whisper.
処刑人に見つかると始末されちゃうけどさ、顔がアルビトロ好みだと殺さずに回収されちゃうことがあって、奴隷に仕立て上げられて景品として出されちゃうわけ。
Like, why is it like the voice acting, the arts, and the writing all seem to have been done independently of each other? Like, hello? Like, what is up with that? That is just things, the dialogue doesn't match the voice acting, the dialogue doesn't match the art, like, why? Anyway, whatever. Well, I don't understand, why is he even giving people slaves for dog tags? Like, what is he getting from the dog tags? Like, I don't understand. What value does it have to him? He's the one who gives them out.
で、その調教をさ、奴がやってるって噂。
Executioners, though the name didn't leave much to the imagination, Akira wondered what their duties actually were in reality. He contemplated asking, but if it were common knowledge for eager participants, the question might make Rin suspicious. He let it pass without comment.
悪趣味だな。
ほんと、死んだ方がまだマシ。
Just then, the door opened and our Arbitro came out. Rin immediately fell silent.
ごきげんよう。
After giving them a lavish smile, our Arbitro disappeared down the hallway with his men. The newly inducted fighter tags hanging down over their chests began to exit the room. Their eyes are proud and eager beneath their masks. For some reason, though, they left the room one at a time, with a long pause after each. Confused by this, he was about to enter the room when Rin stopped him.
忘れちゃった。10分間隔で1人ずつ部屋から退出するの。乱闘防止のさ。こんなとこで戦ったらすぐに警備員に撃ち殺されて終わりだけどね。
はあ、忘れてた。
I never know when he's done talking. Inwardly flustered, Akira drew back and waited for Keisuke to emerge. He ended up waiting for almost half an hour. Finally, Keisuke, the last to leave, shuffled out with drooping shoulders.
おっかえりー。
Rin peered up at his face with a teasing smile.
結局登録はどうしたのさ。
やめておいた。
Oh my god, you literally had one job to get some dog tags. Keisuke mumbled, dropped his eyes to the floor.
ああ、でもやっぱりね。そんなへっぴり腰じゃ無理だと思ってたのよ、俺。
Rin smacked Keisuke in the small of his back.
って叩くことないだろ。
アルビトロはなんて言ってた？
気が向いたらまたいつでもどうぞ。歓迎ですってさ。
Keisuke spoke with a rueful smile, as if remembering how Arbitro had looked.
あいつのキモい動きが目に浮かぶ。
まあ、無事に戻ってこられてよかったな。
なんだよそれ。
奴隷趣味があるらしい。
奴隷？
Keisuke frowned like he couldn't believe his ears.
奴隷ってなんだよ一体。
奴隷は奴隷。ああ、終わったんならとっとと行くよ。ここいるとなんか痒くなってくる。
Rin grimaced theatrically. Stop saying that. Scratching himself on the throat and walked off. How do you grin theatrically? Like, what does that look like, honestly? Like, I want to know. Like, is it just like a huge smile? Like, what? Like, I don't know. Like, at least whisper theatrically, it kind of makes sense, because the idea is you smile, or you whisper like you're on a stage, so you're not actually whispering so much. But, you know, you sort of hush your tone, kind of. But it's loud enough so that everyone, you know, in the audience can hear. But what does smile theatrically mean? I mean, when you're acting, you're just smiling regularly. I don't know. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Scratching himself on the throat and walked off swiftly towards the entrance.
おい。たく、本当に勝手だな。
As they followed after Rin, Keisuke turned to look at Akira.
アキラ。ごめん。
なんで謝るんだよ。
いや、だって。
Though he wouldn't say it, Akira was glad that Keisuke had decided not to participate. Keisuke could barely hold his own in a fistfight. There was no way he'd be able to handle this. Keisuke gave Akira a long, droopy-eyed look, then lowered his gaze. After returning Keisuke's mask to the guards and exiting, so we gotta return those. We don't get to keep them as souvenirs. They descended the stairs to the street. Rin twirled around to face them.
ねえねえ、さ、俺ちょっとこれから知り合いに会いに行くんだけど、一緒に行く？
知り合い？
うん。ちょっと頼まれてたものがあってね。いろいろ詳しいおっさんなんだけどさ、紹介してあげるよ。知り合っといて損はないと思うよ。
The Kira's first thought was to suspect an ulterior motive. He still didn't understand why Rin was so friendly. When Akira didn't respond, large eyes gazed up at him from below.
何か企んでるとか考えてるだろう。俺はさ、結構長いこといぐらやってるから退屈してきちゃったわけ。
飽き気味？殺し合いの件か。
そうだよ。だって俺強いもん。
Keisuke seemed taken aback by Rin's nonchalant assertion.
タグ欲しければその辺の雑魚やっちゃえばいいんだしさ。わざわざカリカリすることなし。アキラたちにだってそんな話じゃないっしょ。
それはまあそうだけど。
じゃあ行こうよ。
Keisuke gave Akira a beseeching look. He clearly wasn't satisfied with Rin's explanation. Neither was Akira for that matter, but now that they had set foot in Toshima, death would remain a constant threat no matter how much they tried to avoid it. That being the case, it couldn't hurt to make use of Rin's contacts, to see what they could learn. If Rin didn't do anything shady, they could all... Wait, no. If Rin did anything too shady, they could always leave. Having reached this conclusion, Akira nodded.
行こ
アキラ。
Ignoring Keisuke's troubled expression, he followed Rin into the labyrinth of alleyways. Once they were sure that no one else was around, Rin ran off to find a phone. Apparently the person they were looking for was hard to pin down, so Rin wanted to make sure of his current location. After the war had rendered mobile phones virtually useless, landlines had once again returned to the limelight. Oh wow. Awesome. Still working ones were hard to come by. The communicator Emma had given him was a wireless, like a cell phone, but was supposedly much more reliable. It could even pick up radio waves, he'd been told. It was shortly before sunset and the sky was swept. It was shortly before sunset and the sky was swept with orange and blue. Akira and Keisuke leaned against the opposite walls as they awaited Rin's return.
どうだった？参加登録。
ああ。
Keisuke's expression darkened slightly.
とりあえず簡単なルール説明があって、適当な質疑応答があって、あの変な仮面のアルビトロだっけ？あいつが妙に大げさだったぐらいかな。
Akira could easily imagine Arbitro's theatrics.
聞いてきたこと話そうか。
ああ。
Gwen's explanation had been a little too concise. His face still dark, Keisuke looked down for a while before finally speaking.
まず、このタグゲームはポーカー形式になっている。これは知ってるだろ？
あ
ある5種類の組み合わせでタグを揃えると、イルレへの挑戦権を獲得できる。
知ってる。
それじゃあ処刑人のことは？
Akira shook his head.
詳しくは知らない。
そっか。まあなんだろう。ルール違反者の死刑執行人ってやつかな。不定期にトシマを周回してるらしくて、エグラのルールから違反してるやつを見つけたら即始末する。つまり殺すってことらしい。
I mean, do they have guns though? Because if someone's breaking a rule by having a gun, if they don't have a gun, you know, it's sort of... That's not going to work out well for them.
違反ってのは重火器の所持、目撃者のいないバトル、闇討ちとか卑怯な手段を使うとか、あとはイグラを危険することとか。
You're not allowed to ambush someone? Wait, what kind of death fight is this? What? Do we have to... Do I have to directly go up to someone and say, I'm gonna challenge you to a little death fight, please? Like, what is this? We have to fight with witnesses? What?
違反者は問答無用で死刑か。
そう。それとタグの取り合いをした時の勝敗だけど、背中が地面にべったりついたら負けだって。で、勝ったやつは当然負けたやつのタグを奪う。それ以外に。
Keisuke stopped speaking and dropped his gaze to his feet. The gloom in his face grew thicker.
それ以外に？なんだよ。
それ以外に負けたやつを好きにすることができるって。
Huh. Keisuke kept his gaze lowered as if the words were hard for him to say. Akira couldn't imagine why. It made perfect sense.
なんて言うんだろう。好きにすることができるってのは、つまり無理やり何か起こることもあるって。
I like that's the where that like that's the first place that Keisuke's mind goes.
無理やり？
だから。
Keisuke shouted, his face suddenly red as a beet. Seeing this, Akira realized what he meant.
ほら、ここって女の数が極端に少ないからさ、刑務所みたいな状態だし、ただそれはアルビトロが冗談っぽく言ってたから、本当かどうかはわからないけど。
You saw all of his statues. Akira knew that it wasn't a joke. The memory of what he'd seen the night before was still fresh in his mind. Say those two had been fighters, and the victor had chosen to degrade his vanquished degrade. Even after he was dead. Akira could understand giving winners power over losers, but what twisted lust for conquest? Would drive someone to defile an empty shell?
理解できないな。
ああ、でもそういうのも負けたやつを貶める手段としては有効なんだってさ。まあでも確かにそうだよな。だって好きでもないやつになんて。
好き嫌いの問題なのか。
What? What kind of question is that? Would you have sex with someone you like? What? Like, what kind of question is this, Akira? Like, actually, no, I'm asexual, so only romantic. I'd only have romantic feelings. Is that the response you're expecting? Because that's the only one that, you know, would you know, be returned with a no. You know? Casey's voice cracked, his eyes going wide. His face was even redder than before, and not because of the setting sun.
違うよ。勘違いするなよ。そうじゃなくて。
I don't understand what's going on with this conversation. It makes no sense.
勘違い？
いや。
I guess Casey would not have sex with someone he likes. And Akira's... I don't understand. Keisuke trailed off. After a moment or two of awkward silence, he cleared his throat and changed the topic.
あとは5枚以上で不要になったタグはアルビトロのところに持っていくと商品と交換してもらえるらしい。まあ、
Makes no sense.
そんなところかな。
When he finished speaking, Keisuke sighed loudly as though his work was finally done. It was a very unbalanced game, Akira thought. There was too wide a gap between the core rules and the ones that seemed tacked on. The fact that it worked regardless must be thanks entirely to Ilray's authority.
アキラ。
When he looked up, he found Casey looking at him with questions in his eyes.
なんだよ。
You look bad, Keisuke. Your face looks lopsided or something. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you look like that.
あのさ、ここまで来たら今さらもう無理だって分かって
His
る。
eyes especially.
分かってるんだけど。
Damn.
俺、アキラに参加してほしくないんだ。ルール聞いてどれだけ危険なゲームなのかってこともよく分かったし。
Keisuke balled his hands into fists. The fading light outlined him in gold.
でもやめられないってことも分かってる。もう参加しちゃってるし、危険はイグラのルール違反だ。それに何より命かかってるしさ。それで俺いても立ってもいられなくて、ついここまでついてきちゃったけど、その
Keisuke muttered something indistinct, then lapsed into silence for some time, before slowly lifting his face. Eyes hard with resolve stared directly into Akira's.
俺さ、イグラに参加する。
It took several seconds for Akira to process Keisuke's words.
しなくてもいいって言ったはずだ。
俺が参加したいんだ。
嫌じゃなかったのか。
でももう決めたから。
Keisuke had always been the one to avoid conflict. Akira couldn't believe they'd actually choose to join Igra.
俺さ、どうしたらアキラの助けになれるだろうって考えてたんだ。ずっと。ここに来てみて、豊島がどういう街で、イグラがどんなゲームなのかも分かった。正直怖い。参加するなんて絶対無理だと思った。けど、俺。
Clenching his fist, Keisuke spoke slowly and deliberately.
俺、アキラを守りたいんだ。
Can you?
誰を守るって？
アキラを。
バカ言うな。
Keisuke bit his lip and hung his head, stricken. Looking him in the face, Akira spoke quietly.
俺がイグラに参加したのは冤罪を晴らすためだ。けど、イグラにはそんなこと関係ない。入ったら最後、やるかやられるしかない。どっちにしろ、俺はイグラの参加を拒否しても檻の中で死ぬことになってた。こうする以外方法がなかった。どれだけバカバカしいことを言ってるか分かってるのか。自殺の予告してるのと同じだ。
If Akira defeated Il Rei, they could leave the city together, but was there any guarantee that Keisuke would remain safe until then? He didn't know if he could really protect Keisuke when push came to shove.
イグラには参加するな。
やだ。
Keisuke replied hoarsely after a heavy silence, raising his head.
確かに参加したら勝つか死体にならなきゃ出られない。けどアキラ、死ぬ気なんてないだろ。イルレに勝って生きて帰るつもりだろ。
Well, apparently you don't have to die if you remember the rules. You just have to land on your back and it's over. They could kill you afterwards, but who knows.
だったらアキラがイルレに勝つまで生き残って一緒に街を出ればいい。俺それまでにできる限りのことをして早くアキラがイルレを倒せるように協力したい。助けたいんだ。
どうするつもりだよ。
俺もタグを集めて全部アキラに渡す。そうすればイルレへの挑戦権が早く獲得できるだろう。それに俺が登録して俺の分のタグもアキラに渡せばそれだけで5枚自動的に手に入ることになるな。その方がアキラが一人で戦うより早いよ。
タグを集めるってことがどういう意味か分かってるのか。
Casey looked away anxiously.
相手を殺さなきゃならない時もある。そんな覚悟お前にあるのか。
ルールじゃ背中を地面に当てたら負けなんだろ。
お前が負けたらどうするんだよ。相手はお前を殺すかもしれない。
Keisuke bit his lip once before lifting his head to look straight at Akira. When he spoke, his tone was firm.
覚悟してる。
軽々しく口にするな。
俺一人傍観者でいるなんてできない。少しでもアキラの役に立ちたいんだ。足手まといにならないようにするから頼む。
All Akira could do was sigh. That was how it always went with Keisuke. Despite his usual timidness, he could be unbelievably stubborn when it came to acting for Akira's sake. Simp. His eyes were now fixed intently on Akira as if to say that he wouldn't back down now. Akira knew from experience that there was no dissuading him once he got that look. Not bothering to conceal his annoyance, Akira folded his arms and turned away.
勝手にしろ。
俺真剣だから。
Alright. Conversation ended there. Akira didn't know what else to say. And that is where I'm going to end this episode of Togainu no Chi. So thank you all for watching. And in the next episode, we'll see Keisuke die after he challenges someone to a match to earn some tags and he fails. See you guys then.